Welcome to the third iteration of News Blast. All four regions competed over the course of the weekend, which means we have a lot of action to cover. My name is Hayes. Let's get into things. Starting things off with Egypt, the first opening qualifier is on the brink of completion. Seika are the only team left undefeated, having beaten Cairo City G's over the course of the weekend. And although both teams have already reached the closed qualifier, it means that Seika will take the top seed into the next stage of the competition. The two teams went up against each other on Inferno, and Seika pulled ahead in the first half, winning at 9-6 and then going on to win the match 16-11. Majority of the heavy hitting was done by Lelia, Kero Dash and Hexor, with all three players picking up 23 plus frags. With 7 of the 8 spots already populated in the closed qualifier, it means that there's only one slot left remaining, with 2 teams vying for that slot. Those 2 teams are Al Gamden and Team No Strats. Al Gamden have a superior chance of claiming that final spot, considering they'll be playing up against Gamers Blast, who are currently rooted at the bottom of the table, whereas Team No Strats are going to have to play against Cairo City G's, who are currently rated second on the log. Along with the 3 teams to qualify from the weekend before last, we've added 4 new names to the list in Pharaohs, 5K Studios, Al Aska, and Team Occupy, who will be competing in the closed qualifier as well. Moving things across to North Africa, there was a lot of action played out over the course of the weekend. Extreme TN, who are one of the strongest teams in the opening qualifier, featuring 5 level 10 Faceit players, had a breeze through the bracket, with their most challenging game coming up against R4, who they beat 16-10. Another team who was able to add their name to the list in the closed qualifier was Project B12, who feature one of the strongest players from the region, Remind. He's currently rated as the top player in the Tunisian Faceit hub, so it comes as no surprise that they were able to reach the next stage through the upper brackets. Project B12's most challenging game came against I Want Die, where Remind played against his former teammate Robin and were able to overcome them 16-11 on Dust 2. With the upper bracket done and dusted, there are still 18 teams left remaining in the lower bracket. On paper, the 4 strongest teams in the lower brackets are NGGDZ, MLC Esports, MindF and Team 5, but they're going to have to be flawless in their pursuit for that closed qualifier, considering they only have 1 life left remaining. Shifting things across to South Africa, the 2 headline teams that competed over the weekend were DNMK and Nixa. Both teams had a fairly easy time of it throughout the bracket until they came up against each other. Unfortunately for Nixa, they were without their key player and IGL ADM and had the familiar Deadshot in his place. The teams went up against each other on Mirage, and the first half couldn't have been closer, with an 8-7 halftime scoreline in favor of DNMK. The second half was equally as close, with another 8-7 scoreline in favor of DNMK, meaning they went on to win the match 16-14, dropping Nixa down to the lower bracket. Zox, Leggy, and Divo did majority of the legwork, with 69 frags accumulated between the 3 of them. Divo was an absolute beast over the course of the weekend, doing a lot of the heavy hitting for DNMK in their games played. Nixa and Viben now find themselves as the strongest teams in the lower bracket and will certainly back themselves to make the necessary runs to reach that next stage of the competition. Coming into the next weekend, all eyes will be on Black Laminate as they begin their campaign in the opening qualifier of the Intel Africa Masters. With 37 teams left remaining and only 5 spots up for grabs, there's bound to be disappointment, but for the teams who fall short on this occasion, there will be another opportunity in the second opening qualifier. Lastly, we have Nigeria. Cruise Gaming had a successful outing this past weekend, winning 2 of their 3 matches. Their first win came over Crescent Sun, beating them 16-0. They were then able to overcome Epic Bots as well, winning 16-10 in that game before they fell short against Ghetto Militants, losing 16-8. Crescent Sun's weekend was cast in shade, having lost all 3 of their matches. After their initial loss to Cruise Gaming, they then lost to Ghetto Militants 16-2 and Epic Bots 16-4, leaving their qualification quest in tatters. Epic Bots elevated their performance from the first weekend, where they lost all of their matches, to the second, where they were able to pick up their first win. However, we're going to need to see a lot more out of them if they're going to stand any chance of making the cut. We're 3 weekends deep in the first edition of the opening qualifier for the Intel Africa Masters, and we're starting to get a good idea of which teams to keep an eye on heading into the next stages of the competition. Remember that the registration for the second opening qualifier is open, and you can get your team involved on the Intel Africa Masters website. We'll be back again with the next News Blast on the following Friday, and we'll catch you guys then.